month ago, I found myself standing in the kitchen, brewing my morning coffee, when my girlfriend of nearly a year strolled in with an unexpected proposition. Casually, she remarked that she'd been reflecting on her future and suggested that my savings could help level us up. At first, I thought she was joking and even laughed a bit, but the serious look on her face quickly dissolved any humor. She wasn't joking. "I'm serious," she said. "We should combine finances if we're committed. That includes your savings." Her tone was assertive, almost as if she'd already decided it was the natural next step in our relationship. I wasn't opposed to sharing expenses or even supporting a partner within reason. But something about the way she emphasized my savings raised red flags. After all, we weren't living together, engaged, or even at a stage where such a move felt remotely appropriate. Calmly, I asked her what she meant, and she didn't hesitate to spell it out. She wanted full access, not partial, to improve both our lifestyles. She even threw in an offhand remark about how her friends' boyfriends let them swipe their cards whenever. The request startled me. I've worked hard to grow my savings over the years as a financial analyst, making deliberate sacrifices to ensure I'd have a cushion for emergencies or future investments, like buying a modest home. It wasn't just money to me, it was security, stability, and independence. Trying to tread carefully, I explained that while I cared for her deeply, I wasn't comfortable combining finances at this point in our relationship. Her response? A sharp glare and a biting comment. "Well, it's controlling to keep it from me. If you trust me, you shouldn't hide anything." That moment floored me. Suddenly, I was no longer a partner in her eyes, I was a barrier to her goals. She doubled down, calling me cheap and storming out, leaving me to wonder how we'd gone from a seemingly solid connection to accusations of control and selfishness. The days that followed only made things worse. She began sending passive-aggressive texts about how her coworker's fiancé gave her full access to his accounts or how real love means sharing everything. The pressure was relentless and I started to question my own judgment. Was I being unreasonable? But my gut told me to stand firm. Then, at a mutual friends gathering, the situation came to a head. In front of others, she loudly complained about how I was holding out on her, framing me as someone selfishly hoarding my resources. I felt humiliated as our friends exchanged confused glances. When we returned home that evening, I knew we needed to have a serious conversation. The moment we walked through the door, she unleashed her frustrations. Her voice was shaky and her words were cutting. "Real couples don't keep secrets. Your money is my money if we're serious," she said. I tried to stay calm, pointing out that I wasn't asking her for access to her accounts or telling her how to spend her money. She was free to manage her finances as she saw fit. But that wasn't enough for her. "This is different," she snapped. "You have more than me. You should be supporting me if you care." That statement cut deep. I'd supported her plenty during our time together, paying for dates, small gifts, and even helping with her rent when she was short. Yet here she was, demanding more as if I owed it to her. When I calmly explained that trust, especially with finances, needed to be earned and that we weren't yet at the stage to merge accounts, her anger flared. "You're selfish," she hissed. "All you care about is your precious account balance." She even went so far as to threaten to leave if I didn't give her access. Her ultimatum hit me like a ton of bricks. Threatening to end the relationship over money that was legally and morally mine to manage? It was a glaring red flag. I tried one last time to appeal to reason. "If this relationship is about love, then we should respect each other's boundaries," I said. "My finances are something I've worked hard to build. It's not about shutting you out, it's about protecting what I've earned. I'm not comfortable merging finances when we're not even married or living together." She scoffed. "So, I have to be your wife for you to trust me? Unbelievable." She stormed off to the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. The next morning, she walked into the kitchen with a smug expression, arms crossed as if she'd already made her decision. "Either you prove you trust me by letting me have a say in your savings or we're done," she declared. To make matters worse, she accused me of financial abuse, a term I'd never thought could apply to responsibly managing my own earnings. That was my breaking point. I realized then that this wasn't about love or partnership. It was about entitlement and control. She had spun a narrative where her demands were reasonable and my boundaries were oppressive. So I made my decision. I ended the relationship and cut her off completely. It wasn't easy, but I knew I deserved someone who respected my hard work, my boundaries, and me as a person, not just what I could provide. Looking back, I feel a mix of relief and sadness. Relief for standing my ground and sadness for realizing the person I thought I knew wasn't the partner I hoped for. But in the end, I know I made the right choice. My future, and my finances, are mine to build with someone who truly values me. In hindsight, the signs were there all along. What I thought was a partnership turned out to be an elaborate attempt to take control of my life, my finances, and my boundaries. The realization hit me like a tidal wave after months of subtle manipulation and outright entitlement. It all came to a head a few days after our last argument. She approached me with what she described as an amazing investment opportunity. She claimed it was a once-in-a-lifetime chance and would require a significant portion of my savings to get started. When I pressed her for details, she grew evasive, unable to provide concrete numbers or proof of legitimacy. That's when the final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. This wasn't about love or trust. It was about prying open my wallet by any means necessary. That was the last straw. The breakup. I decided to end things. It was a bittersweet decision, but one I knew was necessary for my own peace of mind. I called her and asked her to meet me at my apartment for a serious conversation. When she arrived, she didn't even give me a chance to start. "Have you come to your senses yet?" she asked, her tone dripping with arrogance. I forced a tight smile and cut straight to the point. "We need to break up," I said firmly. Her face fell, disbelief morphing into anger within seconds. "You're dumping me over money?" she sneered. I met her gaze and replied calmly, "No. I'm ending this because you're obsessed with what's mine and refuse to respect my boundaries." What followed was an explosion of insults. She called me cheap, controlling, and even a man-child incapable of handling a real relationship. When the insults didn't work, she switched tactics, tears. She begged, saying she'd never find anyone else who would take care of her the way I did. But I stood my ground. The emotional roller coaster was done. As she grabbed her purse to leave, she hurled one final threat. She'd tell everyone I was financially abusive and even post it all over social media. I didn't flinch. "Do what you need to," I said calmly. I had built a solid reputation as a fair and responsible person, and I wasn't about to let baseless accusations shake that. Escalation. In the days that followed, she bombarded me with texts and calls. The messages alternated between tearful pleas for another chance and venomous accusations, blaming me for ruining her life. I blocked her on all platforms, thinking it would be the end of it. But she didn't stop there. She began showing up at my office, waiting by the entrance. One morning, she confronted me as I walked in, wailing that I was being unfair. I didn't engage. Instead, I asked security to escort her off the premises. Then came the smear campaign. Mutual friends told me she was spreading rumors, accusing me of being a paranoid control freak who hoarded money to dominate her. While it stung to hear my character dragged through the mud, I felt relief knowing I had cut ties with someone so manipulative. Things took an even stranger turn when her mother called me out of the blue. She scolded me for breaking her daughter's heart and claimed that a real man shares his wealth. The entitlement clearly ran deep. I ended the call quickly, unwilling to entertain the drama any further. Not long after, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that she was seeking legal advice, claiming I owed her money for emotional distress. It was a desperate bluff. There was no contract, no shared assets, no common law marriage to back her claims. Still, it showed how far she was willing to go. The final encounter. Just as I thought the chaos had died down, she appeared on my doorstep one Monday morning. She wore a forced smile and held a small box in her hands, claiming it was a peace offering. "Let's talk," she said, her voice trembling with forced sincerity. Curiosity got the better of me and I opened the box. Inside was a cheap trinket, something with no real value or significance. I realized it was merely a prop for her latest manipulative stunt. "If I can prove I've changed, will you reconsider?" she pleaded. I felt a surge of frustration. "We've talked enough," I said firmly. "I'm not interested in a relationship where my finances are a battlefield." She tried to push past me into the apartment, her voice quivering. "I promise I'll never demand your money again. I just need some stability right now." That was it. The entire argument boiled down to her wanting access to my finances. Her framing it as a need for stability was just another angle. "You need to leave," I said, my voice steady. She protested, tears welling up again, and accused me of being heartless. When she refused to step away, I told her I would call the police. That broke what little composure she had left. She hurled insults, shouting that I'd regret losing someone willing to fight for me, then stormed off. That afternoon, I changed my locks and installed a security camera. I reached out to a lawyer friend, who assured me she had no legal grounds to pursue any claims. He advised me to keep records of her harassment just in case. Moving on. In the weeks that followed, she attempted a few more theatrics, sending mutual acquaintances to talk sense into me and posting vague rants on social media about betrayal. But her influence waned as people began to see the pattern. She was fixated on money and control. Meanwhile, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The tension and toxicity had been replaced by a renewed sense of self-respect. Looking back, I realized how much I'd overlooked in the name of love. My ex's sense of entitlement was staggering, and her meltdown when faced with healthy boundaries revealed just how toxic she was. Cutting her off, financially, emotionally, and socially, wasn't just an act of self-preservation. It was a declaration of my worth and autonomy. Now months later, I'm thriving. My savings remain intact, and I've used them toward a down payment on a small condo, a dream I've worked hard to achieve. I'm more careful about who I let into my life, and I've learned to spot red flags early. When people ask if I regret how it ended, my answer is simple. I regret not ending it sooner. But when the truth came to light, I made the right move.